Hello, everyone. This is the RChain directorship, board of directorship sort of process where people vote and people look at who should be on the board of directors. Right now, we've got Greg Meredith, obviously the founder, chief visionary of the RChain software, the RChain protocol. Great to see you here, Greg. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. So let's get straight into the questions.
Yes.
What excites you about RChain?
When you pasted the questions in there, I got a chance to look at them, and I was looking at that question thinking, what doesn't excite me about RChain? It's pretty awesome. The tech is super amazing. From the use of the mobile process calculi and having a nice formal model that allows us to go directly from math to code and code to math. That's pretty important because it also allows us to reduce trust, right? Right now, the whole idea of the blockchain was to begin to reduce the trust that we need in third parties. But that trust is now devolved into the hands of the developers. We have, in the case of the Bitcoin community, we have to trust that the developers are actually, providing the code that implements the properties that we think that it does. But when you have the math involved, you can reduce that trust because anybody skilled in the art can use theorem provers and model checkers and other kinds of things to check that the code does that. We can also prove that the contracts executing do what we said they're going to do. So that's super exciting. But I'm also really, really excited about the social phenomena. I'm really excited about, just like the basics. That this is a co-op, right, as opposed to some kind of limited some kind of limited liability corporation or anything like that. It's also not, it's not a non-profit foundation. So there's a different kind of engagement model here that's super exciting for me. And the reason that is so important to me is because I see the tech as providing the basis for new coordination technologies. And I've made no secret about this. I think of currency and social media both as kind of coordination technologies within society. And we are facing a huge coordination problem. We are in the midst of a massive climate change, and we have to respond. And as we can see from recent U.S. election results, the government response to climate change is moving much, much too slowly. So the existing coordination technologies, i.e. the incumbent governments and the incumbent financial systems, are moving much too slowly to respond to the changes that are coming. And I am not the only scientist who feels this way. There are many, many scientists who feel this way. I would direct you to the work of John Baez, who's one of the most brilliant mathematical physicists of our time, who has redirected most of his research and activity towards climate change. So if people like that are doing that, then you need to take this stuff seriously. And this platform is exciting because it gives us this opportunity to build a technology that runs side by side, or a coordination technology that runs side by side with the existing stuff, so that people have a chance to jump over because soon we will all be needing to jump over. So long-winded answer. Hopefully some of the thoughts came across.
Fantastic. Yeah, I really like the stuff about the sustainable development and environmental aspects. Definitely something that people need to look at more deeply, I feel. So the second question is, what are some use cases that you'd like to see enabled through the RChain technology?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many. I know that you interviewed Ed Eichholt, and Ed and I have a long relationship because I think Ed has a really, really great use case, which he has identified through the work on LivelyGig, which is to help people find meaningful work. Again, if the decentralization technology is about coordination, well, one of the most important coordinations we need to make in our own lives, personally and collectively, is finding meaningful work. Serving a purpose and having the work that we do then reward us and able to grow as individuals. So that's one application. So we call it a jobs application or a freelancer application. But in reality, in truth, it's about being able to connect people who need work done with people who want to do work, and to do so in a way that's meaningful. So that's one application that I'm very excited about. I'm also super excited about social communications technologies. I think, you know, social networks is an application that I have long been interested in, all going back to before Splicious. In 2009, I worked with Fred Fisher and Wadud Ibrahim and many other people to put together a decentralized social network. And that's how Splicious got evolved and Special K came into being. And so absolutely, I'm very excited about that, and really interested in providing a decentralized mechanism, because the social media today are, you know, there's a stranglehold on those, and people don't get a chance to participate in the economic proposition, nor do they, not in an equitable way, nor do they, nor is their personally identifiable information and their identity and other kinds of things treated with the kind of respect that it needs to be. So those are two areas. I'll also be really blunt. I think there are other kinds of applications that would be super interesting. For example, I think a decentralized dating service is a really interesting application. And I think the way I tend to think about these things is, I think we kind of jumped to the end with the financial stuff. I think we should look at the blockchain technology in terms of personal risk. So if you're doing social media, you're publishing cat memes, there's not a lot of personal risk there, right? So that's a natural place to begin, and then you can prove out the technology. But then the next level up in terms of personal risk would maybe be a job site, right? Now you've got a little bit more on the line, and can the platform handle that kind of privacy concerns and other kinds of risk profiles? And then when you move to dating, where you have more intimacy, that's an even greater kind of personal risk. And again, can you trust the platform in this regard? So I think when we start to think about decentralized apps, we should really look at it in terms of personal risk. And then there's huge, gigantic risk if we're talking about running global finance over top of the over top of the platform. And so I would put that a little bit further out. And yet, the Bitcoin world and the Ethereum world has kind of turned that upside down. So I'm also super excited about those applications as well. So hopefully that gives you some idea.
Fantastic, Greg. Yes. What challenges do you think that the RChain Cooperative faces?
Oh, so those are great questions. One of the things that I think is the most interesting and exciting challenge is the bootstrap question, right? So we have to bootstrap a kind of decentralized governance model while we're building RChain, right? So RChain needs a decentralized governance model. It doesn't have one. And so while we're building it, we have to bootstrap RChain and the governance model. So that's a huge challenge, and one that every single decentralization project has had to face and come to some questions, come to some conclusions about that. So I think that's super exciting. I also think that there's lots of there are lots of interesting and fun technical problems. There are all kinds of interesting security issues here. There are all kinds of interesting economic issues. Like one of the interesting debates that's going on right now is the debate around economic abstraction. I think it's actually a high value proposition to be able to have chains that support multiple tokens, multiple coins, so to speak. And I think many other people, like for example, last week or week before, I was talking with Joe Lubin, and he concurred with me. So that's one of the founders of Consensus, and he concurred with me that it's quite an interesting value proposition to have a network that directly supports multiple coins. Now, in opposition to that position, we have people like Vlad Zamfir, who feels that what sometimes is called economic abstraction provides too much of a risk for validators in a proof of stake protocol like RChain will be. So having these kinds of discussions and having them in a way where we can be clear-headed, assess all the technical risks, the social risks against the value prop. Those are interesting challenges as well. So hopefully that gives you a flavor of some of the things I'm thinking about.
Very good. Yes. What is your personal background, and your personal experience with growing organizations.
Let me start with the latter one. What many people may or may not know is that I was the principal behind Microsoft's BizTalk process orchestration, and I used some of the same kinds of technology that we're using in RChain to build out BizTalk. And arguably, the BizTalk process orchestration, which was sort of a workflow technology but aimed at internet kinds of workflow, was the first industrial scale smart contracting system. And it gave rise to all kinds of standards like WS choreography and BPML and many others. When I walked into Microsoft, I told them that's what I wanted to build. They did a bait and switch on me and had me working on the transactional file system inside Windows. And basically I said no. After a few months of that, I said, no, this was the deal. You know, we agreed I was going to build this workflow thing at internet scale. And so that's what I'm going to do. And so my manager was actively trying to kill me. In the meantime, he was actively trying to get me fired. In the meantime, I also was competing. It's just one guy. I was also competing against Office, which had their own workflow solution, and SQL, which had their own workflow solution, and 4 other groups inside Microsoft, which all had various workflow solutions. And through this slow, steady, careful application of mathematics and a clear-eyed view of the market requirements, step by step, I won. Me alone. I won against all those internal groups, and BizTalk. One of the most radical things at that time, so this was 1999 to 2000, was that Microsoft SKUs, the SKUs were already solidified, and one of the clearest indications that I had won the battle was when BizTalk got its own SKU. So that gives you a sense of my experience with growing organizations. I took BizTalk from one guy to a 450 person organization whose first year made $75 million. So that gives you a little bit of sense. In terms of my background, largely I'm just a poor, stupid mathematician and musician. You can see all the musical instruments behind me there. But and I kind of pay for my math habit and my musicking by working in compute. But in this particular case, the debt I'm paying off is it's a forward payment. It's to my children. I want my children to be able to have a planet to live on, and I want their children to have a planet to live on. And so the work here is how I'm marshaling all the things in my background from working in music ensembles and learning how to jam like we're jamming right now, to working in technology is to make sure that we can begin to work together. So that's another thing that I've spent a lot of time on is this: what are the tools and techniques for beginning to work together? And there, I think that's where the blockchain stuff is really just the bottom layer of some coordination tech that we need. Right above that layer of coordination tech, we need things like all kinds of a rich ecosystem of apps. But then above that, we need a wide range of social technology, right? And and when we talk about what's a social technology, well, an example of social technology is Robert's Rules of Order, right? So they use Robert's Rules of Order on in Congress in order to help conduct the meetings. And so I have a background in working on sort of up and coming social technologies. So I worked with Luke Homan, who is the founder of Innovation Games and now Contineo, who has applied the idea of serious games and serious play to governance. An example of the kind of thing that Luke does is he runs things called the San Jose Budget Games, where he runs a thing he calls Buy a Feature, which is sort of like what Augur does, but in person. So people get together, they get kind of monopoly money, and they're given a list of budget items that San Jose is considering. And then they and nobody gets enough monopoly money that they can have all the budget items they want. And so they horse trade. So they sit around like tables of 10 or 15, right? And they horse trade. And then what emerges through this trading and play is a picture of what the San Jose community feels is right for the budgeting. And then the people who are a part of the San Jose city take that information and then provide budgets. And for the first several years of this kind of process, what's been so amazing is that people walk away in tears. They feel like this is the first time I've ever been heard by my local government, right? So when people feel they can actually participate in governance and that the governance is meaningful, right, and the governance is related to the things that are important to their lives, then they feel heard and something else begins to happen within the community. And so my background is in that, as well as in technology or math or music. It's in these other kinds of models. And I think that we need that. We desperately need that to face what's coming down the pipe.
Fantastic. Very, very well expressed there, Greg. Thank you for that. What is your favorite other project? Doesn't have to be decentralized. What are you looking at in terms of, it could be in the technology industry, it could be in the decentralized crypto industry, it could be anything. What are you really excited about?
Yeah, there's so many. it's hard to pick one. I have to say I'm really excited about what Ethereum is doing. Whenever I go to meetings with Vitalik and Vlad, or just hang out with the Ethereum community, the feeling I get in my chest is like, these people are onto something and they're excited about the right kinds of things. And that makes me feel really good. I feel like this is great. I'm really excited about not just this project, but the principles that inform what Ethereum is doing. I hate to be selfish, but I'm also super excited about the work that's going on with Pyrofex. So Mike Stay and Nash Foster are basically taking some work that Mike and I did on a mathematical algorithm for generating type systems. And the consequences of that work, I kid you not, this is not an overstatement, they will impact how we do medicine, how we build infrastructure, how we build software. The consequences of those algorithms that are under development are just enormous, and this makes me super excited. And they have a lot of impact on Casper and on RChain specifically.
Fantastic, yeah. Ethereum is a fantastic project. What do you think are some of your strengths, personally?
Probably my best strength is I can laugh at myself. I can take a step back and go, God, what an idiot and an asshole I am. And I can invite others to ridicule me and laugh at me too, which I think is really important to be able to, stay sane in the madness that is the decentralized space and the crypto space. I think the other thing is I genuinely like to listen. I know I'm doing a lot of talking here because you're interviewing me, but I actually really like to listen to others. And I'll tell you a story. One of my biggest, one of the most influential moments in my life was my first ever meeting with Bill Gates. So like, this is a business meeting. We're all sitting around the board, right? And we're and I'm seeing Bill in operation in a review session. And there were about 12 people in the meeting. And I watched Bill, and he was at the time, later I met even better listeners, but he was the best listener I have ever observed. He would listen to every single viewpoint, and then it was like a reverse fire hose. You could just see him sucking in all the information, right? Both said and unsaid. And then he would go, okay, from what I've heard, we agree on these points, we disagree on these points, we need more information on these points. Go collect this information, duke it out on these, and let's meet again. And it was so striking. It opened my ears to the power of listening. And that, and then as I developed as a musician, I also began to understand the power of listening. So I would say that that's my other sort of most important strength.
Fantastic. What were some of your favorite scenario or RChain moments? This could be in the development cycle. This could be in, just the flash of the light bulb. What were some of your favorite moments in this community so far, let's say, or your own developments?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. It's a really good question. I think one of the moments that was really stuck with me was in the summertime. We did a major overhaul of Special K to improve to fix a performance issue that it was in the code and that I knew about. And then there came a point where we needed to integrate that code with some code that the UI team had been working on. And this whole community, like all of the developers, all of the people who are involved in managing the process, we were spread all over the world. Ukraine, India, Boston, Seattle, Australia, just to name a few of the places that we were spread all over. And so, of course, finding a time when we could all get together for an extreme coding session was impossible, right? And so many people were up at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Some folks in Boston were up until 4 in the morning. And it was like all hands on deck. We all got together and we all worked to make sure that we helped each other. So that by the time that we agreed, when we got out of there, everyone could build the code. There was no one who was in the dark about what it would take to build the updated and integrated system. And so that was so inspiring, because I would, like most of the people who work in this space, they get paid far below what they could earn in the free market. And so we had all these people who were putting in these insane hours, getting paid far below what they were worth in the market. And what it showed me was the level of belief and commitment. It's just, wow, and this is what you can get when people have meaningful work, right? When people are plugged into something that is larger than themselves, and they know that and they feel that. So
something for a reason.
Something for a reason, a real purpose. Yeah. And they felt empowered to do stuff. And they felt like it was okay to help their fellow people, right? That wasn't frowned upon. So that, to me, that was a standout moment.
Fantastic. What are some examples of decisions that the co-op board should not make but leave up to its members?
Oh wow, that's a really good question. Honestly, I feel like the co-op board needs to be as hands-off as possible. That's very much my style. And so I would turn the question around. It's like, I think we need to just be very circumspect about the decisions the board should be involved in. I really, really believe that we're going to get a lot more quality if we let the intelligence of the membership, collectively emerge, right? And if the board mainly does a lot of listening. There's some situations right now where, like, we're bootstrapping the governance model, and so we're just asking for forgiveness rather than permission because we don't have a proper governance in place, like with the logo. After we got a bunch of ideas, I just said, okay, screw it. I'm hiring a designer. I'm giving her access to all the stuff. Pick the ones you like the best and run with it. And so I apologize to the community, but we got to have the logo because we have to get a bunch of stuff done that involves the logo. But I think by and large, most of the real powerful decisions should emerge from the community. Although with a caveat that it follows a kind of ask for forgiveness, not permission. right? The community needs to feel empowered to get stuff done, right? And then come back and do that. Come back and sort of, reconcile the actions that have been taken. So I know I didn't provide a specific example here, but more of a general feeling, and I hope that's okay.
Yeah, it was a very good overview. Now, the final sort of question, the final layer here is, Greg, I really want you to speak from the heart, and I want you to say to the people, why should people vote for you to be on the board of directors and otherwise? Give it your all.
Oh, wow. That's a good one. Let me say this. To me, it isn't so much that I'm really seeking such a position. Rather, this time is the time of the great harvest of my life's work. So many results and algorithms and other things I have kept hidden. I have shelves of notebooks filled with calculations and computations, and I have kept them hidden. And now I'm step by step unveiling them to the community, and they are, and that's part of kind of the harvest of my work. And so whatever position I occupy with respect to RChain is, again, really about the harvest of my work. Now, with respect to the development of the tech, I think we're at a place right now where I have a special understanding of the tech. And what I'm hoping to do is to get away from that position by helping others achieve that same understanding. And so that's my focus with respect to the tech and the delivery of the technology, is making sure that others are able to have the same kind of quality and depth of understanding. Now, how that relates to the directorship, well, largely that has to do with any decisions about reaching out to developers and including and organizing developers as a part of this process. Honestly, I'm not the kind of person that likes positions of governance. You can ask my kids; they'll tell you I'm a softie. They walk all over me. So maybe I'm like the worst possible candidate for being a director. I think mainly I'm here to serve, and I'm here to serve in whatever capacity we discover is the right capacity. So that's probably not the answer people wanted to hear, but that's really that's how I think about these things.
Oh, it was a very good answer. Thank you so much, Greg. This has been Greg Meredith, the interview for the board of directors from the Cooperative and otherwise. Thanks so much for your time, Greg. Chief visionary of the RChain technology, lead developer on that. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.